Hello Starseeds, welcome to Starseed Energetics. My name is Ash. Our mission to bring you some of the highest frequency content, and that's a fact. And today I have a June transmission for you where you can pick a starseed. If you want to choose all three, that's fine as well. If you don't want to hear like a bunch of catch up and you want to get straight to the reading, I'm going to leave a timestamp below where you can just skip ahead and get to the reading. But just to give an update to the subscribers that have been with me for a while, I just want to address the last video that I put was on cryptocurrency, and I actually want to apologize to a lot of the new people that found my channel that isn't really aware of my journey. I didn't realize like how sudden that would have felt, because I literally, when I put up the video, I was kind of more addressing the subscribers that had been following me for a while now, that has heard me talk about my passion with technology and crypto, and not only that, but just other forms of advanced technology. That part of my Starseed mission is to assist in harmonizing that towards biological evolution and assist in the integration of spirituality to this field of technology that is kind of inevitable product of our human consciousness, not the other way around. So I'm sorry if that was like a little bit sudden. There was a lot of people who were quite offended about this, because I guess they're new and they haven't really heard me speak about this. But just to help you get less confused, I've been putting up technology videos that is directly related to spiritual evolution for ever since I started making videos, maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And I finally now have the bandwidth of energy and space to focus on what I really want to create for this channel. I've kind of struggled to find the time and place. This channel is one of my biggest passion in my whole life. Out of all the different projects that I like to try, this will never go anywhere. And I haven't, unfortunately, had the time and space in my life to really focus on it so far, even though I really wanted to. Actually, when I was part of an organization, like when I was a head producer for an organization that many of you might know, I was actually discouraged from working on this channel for various reasons. Yeah, just to explain my perspective, I've always wanted to really focus on this. So whenever I said I want to, really focus on this channel and I didn't get the bandwidth, it was really difficult to kind of juggle with the energetic resistance that was there. And the blockchain project that I put out, maybe some of you won't resonate for now, but I can promise you in the next couple of years you'll realize how crucial it is to actually get into that field, and then you'll have someone to trust, because you can trust me. I really care about human evolution in the most holistic way possible, and the technological advancements that are coming ahead are inevitable, again, because it is a product of the human consciousness, not the other way around. And we're quite inorganic as we speak. And actually the distinguishment of trying to separate from what is natural and inorganic is actually itself inorganic. Everything is a movement of nature. Everything has a cycle, and everything has a separation and unification process. And in the end of this all, we will transcend all of these different divisions. But until then, it's really important that you exercise your power to participate in the different choices that you are able to make in the most aligned way possible, which is what I'm doing here. So yeah, I understand some people are not ready to think about tech in that way, but when you do see it taking off, you'll have someone to trust. And the reason why it's important for some people to get into it now is because the market, it's a really good time to enter because of the state at which it is in. It's a really good price to get into the market if you haven't. So that's just my service, and it'll be impossible for me to live, breathe, and do anything unless I am in alignment with my Starseed mission. Again, I cannot just ignore that. Sometimes I wish that I was basic enough that I can just stick to one thing that works and just, I have a good kind of career in the spiritual industry, so to speak, and I wish I can just be low-key sometimes and just do what works and follow the algorithm and, keep putting out things that logically works for me, but I just can't not perform my mission. So that's what I'm doing, and I hope some of you who have been following for a while, I hope that, you know, it really came from my heart and soul to assist people who don't really have a clue how to navigate through this space. So I hope you enjoy, and I will continue to keep working on it, and I will continue to keep working on this channel. It's a big part of my mission too, this channel, and spreading starseed frequencies. And I know it's not cliche how I approach things, but this is me embodying my star heritage. Like Sirius, Pleiades, Arcturus, Andromeda all perform in harmonious unison with their technological interfaces, and I'm one of those life forms here incarnate on Earth, and I'm here to do just that. You know, it's not enough to just talk about connecting with your starseed heritages. It's like you gotta live it. So that's what I'm doing, and at the same time I'm here to share the messages. So let's get into it. So you can choose, well, here's 3 crystals in front of me right now. This one can be Andromeda. This one can be Arcturus. And this one can be Pleiades. Sorry, I see that you cannot see it right now. Andromeda, Arcturus, Pleiades. Okay, you can choose your pile or choose all 3. Before we begin the reading, I would like to request for you to tune into your heart space. Just remember that you have organ, that is your heart. Remember that there is an energetic field around that heart. And just that simple remembrance puts you into a stiller space. And from there, remember that the earth exists. Remember that there's a gravitational field. And now you're grounded. And now remember that there's a sun. Remember that there is this cosmic levity that without that levity, you would probably just sink into the core of the earth because of the gravity, but clearly there's something pulling you upwards. So that's your cosmic energy. Now your energy is in balance, you're aware of your time and space, and from here, I'm inviting all of the highest frequency facets of your consciousness to transmit through this calibration and bring you information, frequencies, messages that will serve you at this point of time in your evolution. Okay, I'll see you in the reading. Okay, Andromedan, here's what I see for you. Here's what I see is that you're starting to see and observe and sense your defense mechanisms in terms of the way that you have been structuring your mental reality, like the way that you cognize your life basically, and how that has been kind of holding you back from truly enjoying your inner peace or really thriving in the mindset of knowing that things are done. And this is the exact point of mindset that is living in the end state of your manifestations, so to speak. And I feel that whereas before you would kind of find yourself in these destructive mindset or destructive kind of like mental patterns and fall victim to those patterns by not even realizing that you're running these mental patterns, but you're finally seeing that clarity in your mental field that even though you may be repeating the same behavioral patterns or same kind of thought patterns, you've tapped into a level of clarity or intention that is so much higher than how any of these belief systems can run your life. So it even feels like you're tapping into a level of frequency or a level of being or a level of vibratory field that whatever that you've been doing for the past year in terms of your inner work, for example, it may have been really difficult to see the results of that inner work, but now it's showing up as whenever you find yourself in these mental barriers or projections of your time or projections of yourself concept, projections of your self-image, you can actually see what's occurring in your field and be able to transmute it naturally just by seeing it for what it is. And you're able to cut that inner conversation short. An example that I can give you is, there is this book that I can't remember exactly who wrote it and what it was, but it was about relationships, and when people find themselves in challenging relationships, the root cause of those relationships being present in your field is actually that you don't really have boundaries when you have this inner conversation, like this critic that lives inside of you, when it is constantly having harsh thoughts about yourself or your life, the progress of your life, and you kind of tolerate those thoughts as if it's okay. But you have to get into this observer seat of like, wait a minute, like who is thinking these thoughts about me? Like how dare I think these thoughts about me? How dare I compare myself to other people? Like, who are you to compare yourself to other people? Comparison in itself is just a detrimental act. It doesn't matter who you're comparing yourself to. Whenever you catch yourself comparing yourself to other people, you should stop it right there and be like, okay, comparison is like violence. You're performing violence on yourself. It's not a frequency to hold in your field. And how you're talking to yourself when you're criticizing yourself, criticizing your work, you need to realize, I cannot tolerate these thoughts that are directing towards myself. And you need to just stop it. It's not you who is the thinker of these thoughts. These are just streams of thoughts that the collective generates towards itself and others. And, you know, essentially, as a field of frequency that you are, you're not the core generator of these thoughts. You're more like an alignment to these thoughts, or resonance of these thoughts. And, you know, in this world, especially if you're an empath and you're physically sensitive, it's going to be really hard not to pick up on these thoughts in some sort of way. Even if you're super evolved, you're going to have glimpses of these thoughts, simply because it exists in the collective and you're connected with the collective. Because you exist in a human body, you live in a physical location where people around you are thinking these things. So it's really not about, okay, like really identifying with these thoughts and like, how do I solve these? What is the solution to these thoughts? But it's more so, you know, this is unacceptable. These thoughts are unacceptable, and just stopping it. And instead you can choose to take advantage of that collective bandwidth of mental frequencies and choose to align with higher frequency of thoughts. You know, you can choose to resonate with a group of beings that you really admire, that, you know, have, for example, if they have a certain quality that you really admire, maybe they're courageous, maybe they're self-confident, whatever it is, just ask to resonate in those groups of thoughts instead. And in any case, what I see is that, you know, you are nearly stopping yourself from feeling at peace with yourself, and you used to tend to judge your reality or your circumstances with a specific set of assumptions that are not true, and you're learning to spot those occurrences where you're just projecting circumstances into your life that are simply not the case anymore. So what you will see happen is that this clear level of mental force, I would say, it's like a force field of mental bandwidth that just wasn't available to you before. And you learn to tap into it deeper and deeper. And you see that this actually overrides and replaces so much of the lower bandwidth of mental kind of congestion that used to block you from just being at peace with life and presence, for the lack of a better word. This mental field isn't a type of resonance, a field of mentality that you've been used to in the past, but it's almost like a new it's a new facet of yourself that you've awakened. You've done something to activate this version of yourself. I don't know what you've been doing. Maybe you've been like trying manifestations, or maybe you've been doing shifting techniques like inner work, meditation, solitude, alignment, communication, whatever it is that you were doing. It opened up access to this level of thought. It's a higher level of thought. And I talk about this in my mastermind. It's one of the first modules that I go through. Is like there's different levels of thought. There's you could say there's like 7 levels of thought. And that's just a perspective of looking at the dimensionality of the mental field. But not all thoughts are equal. Say you have like 1,000 thoughts in an hour. Not all of those thoughts come from the same bandwidth. Not all of those thoughts generate from the same level of dimension. Some of those thoughts come from a higher, more subtle dimension. Some of those thoughts come from your subconscious. Some of those thoughts come from the collective. Some of those thoughts come from like a 3D version of yourself. Some of those thoughts come from 4D version of whatever it is. The mental energy originates from different layers of yourself, and it just so feels like you've activated a new, more dominant, and I say dominance with a soft connotation of like this is the more default network of thoughts that you're more tuning into, and because this is also connected with the physical changes that you've made, the emotional, mental changes that you made, but as a result, regardless of what the reason was, you've really tapped into a level of thinking that is beyond your usual perspective on life, and you will see how far this takes you in terms of the life that you get to live from this space of mental clarity. So many things in your physical reality will shift. It has already been shifting, but I feel like there's a big gap of unknown where you're uncertain of a lot of different elements that are going to occur for you in the near future, and these are going to have a very pleasant surprise effect. And the reason why you can't really be certain of those aspects is because it's better than you can imagine, to be honest, because it's beyond the level of imagination that you've been used to before. So a lot of those facets is kind of like up to the synchronicity of the cosmic intelligence that has been initiating all of these changes in your field. So it looks really beautiful. Let me see what oracle cards can come up for this. Ooh. So there we go. We have welcome new beginnings. Let the sun shine in your life. This one. Is it gonna focus? Welcome new beginnings. Let the sun shine in your life. This is the main thing. And I feel like this, out of these 4 cards that I have here, this is the only like feminine card. And it's the underlying energy of this. So I feel like what is going on is like you've actually kind of really surrendered these active masculine, like, you know, generating field of your energy, and you've kind of surrendered it to the feminine, and you've been working on really integrating like your heart space. And regardless of what people technically mean by being in the heart space, it's really difficult to understand what it means to be in the heart space, living from the heart, following your heart, like listening to your heart. What does this all really mean? It doesn't really mean anything because it doesn't have an understandable meaning. That's the whole point of the heart. It's non-cognitive. In a certain way, it does have its own cognition, but it's not like a mental cognitive field. And I feel that what you've been doing is really intending to merge together this masculine aspect of generating different energies, manifesting, going after what you want. And you've been really harmonizing that with the feminine aspect. And what you're going to see is the alchemy or the transfusion between the two. And you're going to see that a lot of different polarities in your life come to a unison. Here we have Archangel Michael. Stand in your power, be true to yourself. Archangel Raguel, be fair in all situations, resolve your conflicts. And then we have learn from your challenges, relax and trust. I feel like relaxing and trusting all of these different changes that are occurring in your life is one of the deepest lessons. And the transformations that are about to occur in your life, they're not going to be difficult. And I feel like you had a little moment of purging with that level of difficulty. Like things need to be hard and strenuous and difficult. And I feel like that's one of the things you really had to purge out of your system for the past, few months or whatnot. but your determination to kind of really be authentic and continue to tune back into yourself instead of looking outwards, or instead of looking for quick situations to fulfill you. I feel like you've really been in a good space of questioning everything in your life, questioning what you're thinking, what you're doing, like what your preferences. And it's been a really challenging ego death, I would say, but it's all coming into resolution and balance, as you will see unfold in the next month. Okay, I really hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here. If you enjoy my transmissions, you can check out my Patreon, and I will see you guys in the next video, which is going to be soon, because again, I now have time to create it. I have the space to create it. So sending lots of love. See you. Okay, if you chose Arcturus as your crystal, this is going to be your reading. Just place it here. This is such a beautiful reading, and I will have to say, dear Arcturian soul, that this past month must have been very, very difficult for you. And not saying that it's going to continue. There's a profound healing and profound new beginnings taking place. But I think in the recent past is where I see a lot of difficult energies, where you had moments where you felt like giving up, and then it feels like you felt like the whole world was kind of working against you, or that like you just don't have luck or something like that. And that's how you felt, but you didn't stay there. You kind of moved through those. You identified those habitual thinking that you had, and maybe you had to release like a big chunk of your past, whether that has to do with releasing material belongings, or this could even mean that you released weight, because when you're holding on to weight, it's kind of like you're holding on to these energetic debris that you're not ready to let go of. So you accumulate weight during a period of time where you feel like very victimized, or that you need to kind of have a buffer for the energies that you're moving through. And then when you hold resentment for that time, or you haven't finished forgiving yourself and others for that period of time, then you tend to hold on to that. So it does look like perhaps you did release a chunk of that, either weight or material belongings, or it could even be financial energy. Like maybe you had to like release a huge chunk and align with new modalities of income, or whatever that looks like for you. Or maybe it's just emotional and energetic, but it does look like it was like on all three like levels of emotions, thoughts, and physical. And based on the energy that came up, I'm gonna say please go ahead and watch the first pile, which was Andromeda, because it's actually very relevant for you, but you have additional messages coming through. You're leaving something behind. It's a way of being. It's not only just a way of being, but it's also the situations, people, kind of trajectory that you thought your life to be. It could even be plans that you made for your future. It could be the way that you look at how your life unfolds, or expectations that you have towards yourself or other people. A lot of that is shutting off, and it looks like you actually you're going through a stage where you're going to feel like you're sacrificing something for the next chapter. Some things that just on a frequency level, just you cannot take into the next stage with you, because it just doesn't fit where you're going. Again, perhaps that is like weight, could be if you are holding on to weight, and that is like cellular toxicity or energy that you couldn't let go of because of your resentment and stuff like that. It just doesn't belong to where you are going next. So you might be releasing a lot of that, maybe going through a huge glow up, or changing your entire wardrobe because the clothes just don't fit the frequency. And I could say the condition of your clothes could be completely fine. Maybe it's relatively recent, but if the energy that you had when you accumulated those clothes, or the intention that you held when you accumulated those clothes. For example, let's say that you bought clothes because you thought other people are going to like it, instead of really tuning into what makes you feel good when you wear it. For example, if the intention was off when you bought it, then yeah, you're going to need to release those clothing and the energies, unless you really want to go ahead and transmute it using whatever modalities that you like to use to cleanse the material belongings. It could be that you let go of a project or circumstances, relationships that just don't fit where you're like, because this energy is like you're leaving something behind, and there's this piercing opportunities, new frequencies, new bandwidth, new pathways opening up, new doorways, new ideas, new projects, new people, new passions, like just bursting through, and you're just proudly leaving behind what you were leaving behind. But for you to get to this stage, I feel that you had to go through a lot of I think you went through like a mini dark night of the soul. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you probably already had it a long time ago, like that entire dark night of the soul, but it looks like you're going through it again. And I feel almost like with this change, the people that are going to be the people that are going to remain in your life after you go through this entire change, like your whole timelines are shifting right now. Your whole bandwidth of every single layer of your energy is going through a glow up, like an entire like rebirth. So the people or situations that remain in your life, it has no chance but to like evolve alongside your change. Some of that could even include like your genetic family. You might not even expect this, but they might just transform on their own. Maybe you don't even talk to them, but they just like go through like an ascension process, or any of those things might happen for you. And there's just this energy though, that even when you had these darker thoughts or these lower emotions, there's a part of you that just is such a trooper that it just kept going. But do you know what was pulling you to keep going? It's like, what was motivating you to keep going, keep continuing when you were going through these more darker times? Was actually the future timelines that are opening up. They kind of pull you forwards, like, and you don't know at the time, like, why is it that you have still the motivation to go and continue on and be positive? Well, it's because the reality is the next chapter is so bright that it's just pulling you forward. It's not you needing to do this restoration. You're being pulled forward by this new creation. Or it really does look like divine intervention in terms of what you were starting to tune into. So there was a bit of a painful process of release, purging, a process of little death, and a part of you that really felt like you wanted to control the outcome of things, or that you thought you knew better how to take the trajectory of your life. But again, you're being humbled by the great universe that you don't know better, and that you don't have to know better, because you are part of the greater whole. And there is this profound healing taking place from all over the place, from all dimensions, to reclaim the power that you hold. And I'm just gonna say there's no energy or love or light or effort that has been lost, no matter what you felt like you had to leave behind, whether it's a situation, project, circumstance, creative endeavor, or a relationship. Every single heartfelt love and energy that you gave into that, it will return to you 1,000-fold, but it perhaps is just coming from another source rather than what you thought you were gonna get out of that specific thing. So that's your oracle cards. That's your tarot cards. I'm gonna go into your oracle cards now. So, message that I'm getting from the oracle cards right now is that you're way too hard on yourself. And, just actually resolve the relationship you have with that inner critic. And when you accept that part of yourself as someone who deserves love and someone that in its transmuted form is actually so very helpful for you, if you can just alchemize the frequency at which it communicates to you, I think you really have to heal the inner critic inside of you, not to like abandon it and redeem it useless, but just to see what gifts does it have to offer in its alchemized form. So I'm gonna pull 2 cards right now. We have Acceptance, the Lovers, okay, one more card. Saint and Sinner. Interesting. I'm going to read you the meanings of these cards and then I will interpret them. Acceptance. Acceptance is the key word for you at the moment. You have the power to heal and bring balance to an area of your life that is causing you concern by accepting things as they are. Don't try to change that which is beyond your power to change. Focus instead on that over which you do have power. You have power over the way you react to events in your life. Adopting an accepting attitude will help you regain your sense of inner peace. There's no point worrying about something, or worrying about it will make no difference. Believe that the forces of life are with you and not against you. Make the most of what you have instead of wishing you had more. However, acceptance doesn't mean that you need to give up on your dreams, hopes, or aspirations. Just know that there's a higher purpose to things and trust that it'll all work out for your highest good and the highest good of all concerned. With this card, I'm just getting a gentle message for some of you who might be in kind of a difficult energy around feeling like life is working for some people and not yourself. And there's a specific message for people who have been struggling with that, is just request yourself to connect with a level of yourself that is blissful, ecstatic for other people's success, ecstatic for other people's blessings, instead of feel like you're comparing yourself to them or that you're comparing your results. Request to access a part of yourself that can be truly happy for these people, because that in its own will alchemize this entire perspective and assist you in that part of reality that you can access where you have the same. When you can truly be happy for others would be a state in which you also have it for yourself. So you're actually accessing that reality if you can tune into that level. And then the Lovers here. Through you, I see what others cannot see. The reflection of a star so bright, its light fills the heaven. Glimmering creations floating out to sea. Love in heavenly bodies, your love forever unfolds. Forever illuminates through endless cycles and seasons. God and goddesses dream through us. This looks like a poetic kind of interpretation of this card, because some of these cards I think transcend meaning, so that's why the author puts like a poem. So this is for some of you who are on a path of finding yourself through the reflections of other people, and for those who have been going through a difficult or challenging situation when it comes to relationships, this card is signifying that accepting this situation for exactly what it is and taking the right steps to resolve it instead of pretending like the situation isn't what it is actually. And then the outcome, you cannot control it, but you'll always know that the outcome will be the highest trajectory for everyone involved if you can just accept the situation for what it is. And I think that you're going to come to a huge revelation if this is your case, that you have this mirroring kind of dynamic going on in your relationships. I think you're going to find out and have revelations about the relationship in a way that you didn't have before. It's going to help you make the right decisions and release it if it needs to go and transmute it if it can. Then we have Saint and Sinner. The assumptions you're making about another person or event could turn out to be completely wrong. This is so interesting. Assumptions that you're making about another person. After we read about the relationship thing, realize that for every theory, there's a contradicting and opposing one. There may be more to the situation than first meets the eye. You are being advised to keep an open mind and heart. All is not necessarily the way it seems. Remember also that judgments we make about others are also judgments we make about ourselves. You will not find peace and fulfillment while holding I am right and they are wrong attitude. Accept that there's no single truth that applies universally and things will become clear. So I think that these oracle cards have just somehow been for some people who have been in a challenging relationship dynamic. But if you don't have that kind of relationship dynamic, then you can just take this as a signal that whatever you're projecting onto other people, not just one person, maybe it's a society, maybe it's like a group of people, maybe it's just the way that you perceive humanity in general and how you judge it. There's a sharp lesson to be learned that there's always another perspective to look at it. I think that's your biggest lesson right now as you go through this next chapter, because your life is literally turning into another octave of frequency, as I've seen in your tarot cards. And a lot of those times is going to be a very challenging time for all relationships, because as you are evolving is a really telling time of what relationships get to stay in your life and evolve alongside you, or that needs to be released. So it feels like a moment of truth, and that you cannot interfere mentally or with control how things are going to unfold, but you're just going to have to let reality work itself out in terms of how it decides to distribute these people in the periphery of your life. So just trust the process, but just know that if you are judging other people or judging another person, try to transmute that, alchemize that perspective into seeing how the highest facet of you would be able to interpret this situation or people or person. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for spending time with me here. I'll see you very soon on the next video. And if you enjoy my transmissions, please check out my Patreon, where I regularly upload exclusive content. Okay, bye. See you. Okay, if you have chosen Pleiades, which was this Lemurian crystal, this reading is for you. I'm going to start out with this little deck. It's an oracle deck. Let's see what it says. Please. Forgiveness. Release. Wow. It's very clear. Confidence. One more. Trust. Wow. This is such a beautiful healing journey for you right now. It feels like in the past couple of days, a few days to the next few weeks, but this feels like something that you're doing right now as we speak, maybe in the very near future or maybe in the very recent past, that you are beginning to forgive people from the past or situations from the past as you have never been able to forgive completely before. Even if you felt like you forgive these people, situations, and things, there was a part of you that just couldn't even look at the whole situation. So you thought you forgive them, but if you thought about the situation, it would still bring up charge. Or say if you were to speak about someone that is important to you now and you opened up to that person about what happened in the past or the people that you had to deal with in the past, it would bring up a lot of resentment. But you're going to see that level of resentment is dissolving as you're completely forgiving the situation, people, or things, and most likely it's going to show up in the physical reality, which means maybe you'll have a conversation with a person or people, or something tangible is going to occur where there's going to be a deep release in these energies that you were holding on to that was part of what was holding you back from your freest, truest confidence, just being your radiant self and tapping into your highest level frequency timelines. This is the final piece that is coming together. And a lot of times you found yourself that even if you tuned in to what you wanted to do, it was really difficult for you to take action on those things, was actually because you were holding on to this frequencies of resentment or unforgiveness that had been lowering your density. And it, like, quite literally, it's like holding on to things that just doesn't serve you. If you have resentment towards somebody, towards people, towards what happened in the past, and that also means that you're going to be seeing the true core lesson of why these things had to occur. And until now, I think it was difficult for you to really understand or make sense of why certain things happened the way they did, even until now. Even though you know, like, you've healed layers and layers of yourself, it was hard for you to still see, like, what was the point of all of that. And I feel like you finally came to the realization of it on a frequency level, on a beingness level. And you felt like these obstacles in the past had hindered you from being the best version of yourself. Well, you're free to become the best version of yourself now as you forgive and release these situations and people, and you take the core lesson for yourself. And what that core lesson is, I can ask, but I don't know if they will give the answer to that. What is the core lesson? This one, which is peace. The core lesson is peace. This isn't really about, okay, listen, this is about to get really deep. This is why all of these things happened, isn't to teach you how to make peace with it. When the core lesson is peace, it doesn't mean that surface level peace. It means, due to the pre-constructed conditions of what it means to be a human being from the first place, there's a set of parameters that our consciousness gets to experience since its inception. And it is unfortunately conditioned away from this creator level peace, this existential peace. I'm not talking about just temporary peace. I'm talking about eternal bliss, eternal peace. Humankind are not born to experience that just yet. Perhaps for the future generation coming up, and perhaps for the ascending bandwidth of souls going here. So when you had to go through these destructive experiences with these people, with these situations in the past, and just feeling like life is not fair, feeling like this life is just not worth the effort, for some of you, it was that dark. What this level of despair was helping you to do is penetrate into the core of this existential peace, which otherwise you would have never been able to unravel for yourself. People who are born with a mediocre level of life, or their life has been pretty good, of course they will enjoy their life, and they can manifest whatever experience they desire, but at the end of the day is not going to be conducive to penetrating to the core of this existential creatorship level of peace and bliss. And because you went through so much despair, you actually learned to prioritize this level of what transcends all experiences at all. If you don't touch the heavy distortions of this existence, you won't reach for what transcends it. So basically, this experience pushed you to transcendence, and not just a surface level of transcendence, like chakras and this subtle dimensions. Not like that. I mean, like, that consciousness level which transcends dimensions, and you had to penetrate into that level, that core deep level. And so with this being said, now you're free to be whoever you want to be, because you have this foundation of peace that cannot be destroyed by any external circumstances. All right, so with that, what is the message for you? 10 of Cups, 9 of Swords, 7 of Swords. Wow. It feels like, okay, let me finish the spread before. This looks like an actual... I'm gonna need to get some clarifiers on these cards. Okay, so the real outcome here is the healing of all the inner conflicts, all the conflicting desires that you had within, because you were not really clear of what it is that you want to experience. And I want to go ahead and say that you can declare that you desire your experience now to be minimally conflicting, minimally suffering, minimally difficult, because there's part of yourself that feel like almost is in disbelief of deserving to live a harmonious, graceful life that is free of struggles and suffering. And there was a part of yourself that really wanted to see what it's like to fight for what you desire. There's this like warrior type of energy where you want to deserve peace, but that you've already, like, you know what? That's an honorable thing to want to experience, because that kind of experience is rare for a high density creational being. If you're like residing at the level of the solar consciousness or whatever, this would be a crazy experience to try to have and see what you can integrate from this simulation of life. But you know what? You've had enough. You had enough of you had enough of what you can take away from lessons of hardship, of struggle. It just feels like, you know, mental violence almost. And it does look like your reading is very closely relevant to the first two that I did. So I believe that there's messages for you in both of the first two readings, which is Arcturus and Andromeda. But at the same time, I feel like part of this was you reliving so many different past lifetimes in this life to explore all of those lives that you wanted to experiment with, in terms of going through disastrous separation from remembering who you are and seeing what kind of harmony you can generate from separation and conflict. But I feel like you're forgiving and healing all the aspects of yourself that truly wanted to experiment with this, because you clearly didn't have a single clue what it actually would feel like on a physical embodiment level when you did sign up to have these types of experiences. As a soul, when you sign up to have a certain experience, you don't know what it actually viscerally feels like from this limited container of the subjective experience that you signed up for. And so perhaps you go back and forth again and again to, you know, integrate the experience and try again, integrate the experience and try again. And that's almost like, if I could equate it to people, when the technology advances to have these metaverse realities come online, they're not going to know what they're signing up for when they go into one of these metaverse experiences. Some of these virtual reality experiences that they can experience is going to literally rewire their brains in such a way that they're actually experiencing it, and people have no idea. And I think as a soul, you don't really know either. You know, it's not from that soul level, it's just sounds like a great idea to experiment with all of these things. And I think that's part of what you are integrating, part of what you're healing, part of what you're forgiving towards yourself, forgiving your higher selves for even like creating these scenarios. I mean, at the end of the day, for them, it's like everything is going to be all right, and everything is at the end of the day all one. So what's the issue with experimenting? I mean, they wouldn't even have these line of thoughts, but if they could have thoughts, these would be the reasonings to why you sign up for these types of experiences of, this world. Look at all the problems out there are that people regularly experience, like abuse, trauma, assault, whatever, these difficult experiences and war. And yeah, it's like, why? Because from the higher level, you just don't get it. You just don't get it. What you're signing yourself up for. And I think right now, the conclusion is that as you are healing it, as you are transcending these paradigms, it will have been worth it. But at the same time, is it worth it? I couldn't tell you. It will be worth it. It is worth it now as you transcend. But if you ask yourself, the versions of yourself that is in those timelines where it is really difficult, it is really hard, is it worth it? I don't know. But it does look like, this is like a level of philosophical question that I didn't really think I would be addressing in this spread. But it feels like you're forgiving yourself for signing up for this experience as you're healing these aspects of yourself and finding the gifts that were hidden. And I'm not like, it is true. There's gifts in all of these healings. There's gifts in all of these situations that you signed up for. But at the same time, I think that you've had enough of this struggle, this suffering, and you're not going to stand in this level of bandwidth anymore where this is even an option. You're raising your minimum standards of consciousness or your conscious experience, what you're available to experience from reality. You're not tolerating this type of treatment to yourself anymore where before you were curious, like, hey, what could happen if I steer out of alignment in this way or anything like that. Now you're not available for that anymore to sign yourself up for any of that. And I don't know, maybe to you who chose this pile, when you do ascend from this dimension or this subjective life, if you would come back as a human incarnation or 3D form of consciousness, I think that you've had enough, actually. And this is not a pessimistic reading at all. It doesn't mean that you're going to give up on this life at all. From the contrary, you've already had the worst. The worst is behind you. And you're now going to live the fruits of what you experience. But what I'm saying is, like, the fruit is going to be sweet. The rest of your life is going to be incredibly blissful and joyous. I really see that you're healing, like, on all levels, especially when it comes to your finances, your resources, your material, reality, your health. But at the same time, I think that after the integration of this current cycle, you're going to think twice before you ever sign up for this 3D experience again. And I've never said this in any reading, but I think the rest of your human life, again, to make it clear, is going to be the gift stages, like the alchemized stages of all the frequencies that you've transmuted. And you're never going to have to do that again. You're never going to have to go through that again. You're healing. But I think what you're taking away from this to a soul level is like, you know what? If you were to come back to Earth again, I don't know if you would do this again. Not sure. It's, a really interesting example that I can give is, like, I remember I went to go get a facial one time, but it was one of those really painful facials. And of course, like, after the facial, it's gonna heal and I'm gonna have, like, more radiant skin. But there's been some facials where I'm like, I'm never doing this again. Like, it's maybe for some people it's worth it, but for me, it's like, I don't want to go endure that level of pain again just to, I'll find other ways. And I feel like this is kind of how you feel towards your past or your, it's healing. But I feel like your soul kind of realization is like, I'm not going to do this bandwidth again. And even if you do incarnate as a human, you're going to choose a much more graceful version of what to experience. I think that you chose like a very difficult curriculum because you're adventurous and you're curious. But when you were signing up for that, you had no idea how it actually feels as a human, because you don't have that level of sensitivity or that level of interface when you did sign up. So you're like, not this type of curriculum again. But at least as you integrate that, make that note for yourself, at the least now the worst is over. You're not going to go through anything like that ever again, and you get to enjoy the fruits of that. Fruits of that which you just finished wrapping up. New energies are coming through. A new radiant kind of identity is emerging. A new persona, a new avatar. Basically, a new avatar is emerging. There's a really deep goddess energy here. Venusian energy, love and grace. And I do think that a large chunk of your soul DNA comes from Venus. And that's what you're used to. You're used to grace. You're used to flow. You're used to alignment. You're used to love and beauty. And I think you were very enthusiastic about trying, this polaric curriculum on the earth. I want to experience the most intense one. And then it's like, no. But enjoy the alchemized version of it. All I've got to say to you is, it's finished. The polaric aspects of it's finished. Like the facial is done, Now you get to just enjoy the aftermath. Enjoy it. Truly enjoy it, and remember the core lesson that you've learned, which is peace. And that level of peace that is not hindered by any circumstance. The one that is everlasting, you've already earned that badge, and you'll proudly wear it in your oversoul. To the level of refinement that you have conquered on the physical plane. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here. If you enjoy my transmissions, please check out my Patreon, where I post exclusive content every week. Sending so much love, and I'll see you very soon in the next video. Bye.